Welcome to the Experimental Aircraft Channel podcast and video podcast series. Watch on YouTube under EAC Aviation Podcast or on iTunes, Podbean, or GooglePlay by searching Experimental Aircraft Channel. Here we talk about aviation in the form of experimental, light sport, and ultralight aircraft. Let's dive right into the interview. Okay, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Experimental Aircraft Channel podcast and video podcast. Today I've got a special guest coming all the way on the other side of the planet from Africa, and we're going to talk aviation, and he actually is a missionary pilot in the field. So we're going to talk some STOL stuff, real-life STOL stuff here in a minute too. Pete, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, I'm doing good. We're in Uganda actually right now, sheltering in place at the moment. But we've been here. We've been in East Africa for 4.5 years, and we. I say we. My wife and I have 3 kids here. I have 1 in the U.S. in college right now. So we're on a couple different continents at the moment, but we really enjoy the work here. And yeah, thanks for having us, Brian.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you carving out some time of your schedule to do this. And everybody, I'm just going to say that being this is all the way across the planet and he's in a remote location, there might be a little bit of hiccups here and there. So this is not live, and I'm going to try to edit that out as much as possible just to understand the situation of where he's at. So, Pete, I guess start off talking a little bit about kind of where you got started with this. And first off, with the aircraft, like we've talked in the past, and you actually were a builder in the experimental world yourself before all this. So talk to me about between that and how you got started in aviation or got the bug for it, because it kind of ties in together, I understand.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, here, let me take care of something there. I grew up in a family that was heavily involved in aviation. My dad's EAA number is 24,761. So he was in it early. And so I kind of grew up around home builds, and my parents built 2 airplanes. They first built a wood Pete. It's a 2-seat, low wing, all wood aircraft. And then they sold that and built a T-18. Which is all aluminum rivet and construction, and also
that's a Thorp T-18.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So that's my memories. My early memories of flying was in that with my parents, and it kind of went on the back burner. It wasn't really interesting to me, I guess, that much. But in my mid-20s, it came up again. And I went back to Oshkosh in 2003, I think. And then I'd been back ever since, really caught it again. And yeah, I built a Titan Tornado S from a kit.
Yeah, I'm losing you just a little bit there. So, Titan Tornado.
My family was growing, and so I was like, the first thing I built was a Titan Tornado S,
okay.
And loved flying, and it was really fun to fly, kind of like a sports car. Pretty cheap to operate, 5 gallons an hour on the Rotax 912. Yeah, fun airplane, but the family was growing. I was having kids. They didn't all fit. So I sold that and started building a Bearhawk 4-place from scratch. And at about my 10-year mark is when the Lord really called us into missions. And I ended up selling it. I had the wings. The wings are all aluminum, and I had those completely finished. I had the fuselage finished welded, and sold the project to a guy named John Wheeler in Idaho, and he finished it and he's flying it around. He sent me videos of it, and it's really fun to watch it someday maybe I'll get to fly it when we're back in the U.S. But when I was well, that would have been 2011. I really felt the call to do something else. I was an electrical engineer and loved my job, but I just felt like there was something else for me. And the more I looked into mission aviation, it was something that I felt the Holy Spirit just telling me to do. Like, you can do this. Not everybody can do it, but I've given you the skills and talents to be able to do it. So we looked into it. I ended my A&P, and it was a 1-year program. So I got my A&P there, which was nice. I mean, from building, I had great experiences. I learned a lot, tons of experience learning. I always say I've probably built 4 airplanes in building 1.5, because
So you were halfway there. You were halfway there to your A&P anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd build something and I wouldn't be happy with it. So I'd put it in the scrap pile and make another one that I felt was up to standard. So, and I felt, but the A&P, filled in a lot of certification gaps. You can't put that on a certified airplane? What? Why? Those kinds of things. So,
baling wire and duct tape doesn't work on the certified world, huh?
It really doesn't.
But it works in the mission field, probably, doesn't it?
Well, technically, no. Anyway, yeah. Then I had to get my commercial license. So I got my commercial pilot's license, and we came over here to Africa with AIMAIR, which is the Flight Department for Africa Inland Mission. So we do a lot of flying for AIM. They have, in all of Africa, there's probably 700-ish missionaries. We serve probably 150 to 200 of them in East and Central Africa. So
awesome.
We get to fly into a lot of fun strips. Some of them are kind of boring. There's most of my flying is up in South Sudan. So those strips up there started out as mission strips, and as the UN came in, they said, hey, can we take over this strip and we'll make it big and wide and we'll put gravel on them. And so, a strip that was maybe 1,000 feet is now 2,000 feet and like 75 feet wide. They're getting big enough.
They're becoming like real airports instead of just bush landings or something. Well, let me back up a few miles here for a second to get back to where you started here. So approximately how old were you, and you're an electrical engineer and you're at work and you're thinking, gosh, tell me just a minute or two about that. Like, what was that situation? Were you at work one day and it's like, you know what, I've been doing this for years. It's time to do something different. Like, what was going through your mind, or what was that aha moment? Like, I want to look into getting my A&P and commercial license and leaving the country.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it was not an aha moment. It took a year. I'd worked at my job for just about 12 years. And I just felt an unrest in my soul, and I didn't know what it was. And it took me a year to figure it out. I did a lot of searching, a lot of reading and praying and just thinking. And then at the end of it, I was like, I had heard a sermon series on fasting, and I'd never done it before. So I was like, hey, this seems to be, the Bible says it's a great way that God speaks to people. So I did it. Actually just did lunch fast. So I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. I just went during lunch, and instead of eating, I would just go pray and read the Bible. And about Monday, Tuesday, about Wednesday, mission aviation just popped into my head. I went, that's interesting, because I was pretty sure that it was going to be that I was going to go into ministry full-time as like a worship leader, something like that. I'd led worship at our church for 14 years. and loved doing it, but never full time.
That's right. You do
So I was,
music and audio video stuff too, don't you? Editing.
yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I was pretty sure it was going to be that, but when mission aviation came into my mind, I thought that's interesting. And then Thursday, it came back, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And by Friday, I was like, okay, I'm not even thinking about anything else but mission aviation. And so I came home on Friday and told my wife, Tia, I said, hey, Tia, what do you think about if we look into mission aviation, maybe going overseas? And she kind of laughed and said, sure, why not? You're always doing something crazy. Let's try to figure this out. So that's kind of where it started. And the more we looked into it, the more we just saw that our skill sets together, even my wife and I, she loves to host and just take care of other people like that. So it
And how
was
old
a
were
really
you
good
when
fit.
this was going on? This started?
I was 34.
Okay.
Yeah, 30, 35.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that we had spoke. I found you on YouTube, I think about 5 years ago, and you were doing a little promo for SMAT. What's that
Yep.
stand for again? School of Missionary
School
Aviation
of Missionary Aviation Technology.
Technology. Yeah, and I came across
Yep.
that you did a little thing, and you're bringing out these. Well, the video is still live. You can still go out and see it. But you landed this airplane. You open up the baggage compartment. Was it a 206 or a
Yeah. Yep.
172? Okay,
That's a
and you
206.
start pulling these boxes out, and it's like these boxes of excuses, like I'm too old, I don't have enough money, or I don't know. You went through like
Yep.
5 different things, and I thought, it was a cool video, which I assume you probably edited that yourself.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah,
That's
okay, great
my
video.
lady.
And it's like I actually started to really consider it, and that's why I reached out to you. We had a conversation, I think, like 11 o'clock at night,
Yep.
because I was looking for something to depart from my normal everyday, and like, wow, I saw you, like maybe I can do this. I started to research it, and the more I researched it, it was like it made me very interested. But at the same time, it's like the path to get there seemed like years. I thought it was just something that you could just like sign up for and then like jump into. It's like no, it was like a 2 or 3 or 4 year process, and you have to be
Yep.
to get support. What is it called? Friend building, or what is it called?
Friend raising.
Friend raising.
Yeah.
It's friend raising for fundraising to be able to support you in the
Yeah,
field. So it's a big long process, you know.
that's correct.
For sure, for sure. Which is ironic now because what I'm doing now is almost like friend raising, getting subscribers and
Yeah,
support. And it's almost the same thing. So it's kind of ironic.
very true.
But that's awesome. But anyway, that's how I came across you. So what was your experience like at SMAT? That's kind of a quick program, right? Isn't it like 12 or 14 months or
It's well,
something?
yep, nope, it's 12 months. It's kind of like drinking from the fire hose if you don't have any experience. But I think they do a great job. It's 8.5 hours every day, Monday through Friday. You get like 2 days off for spring break. It's like a week off for Christmas, and that's about it. Like, to hit the hour minimums for the FAA requirements, you just have to be there almost 12 months straight.
Now,
But
is that just for the AMP program, or is that for the AMP and flight program?
so that's the A&P.
Okay.
And then they have a flight department that also runs all year. And they have a full program, and they take you from, they take students from nothing through private, and then different transitions for complex and high performance, and then instrument, and finally you finish with commercial. So, and they do some heavy cross country. They do a module where you're 7 to 10 days down in the Smoky Mountains, just doing different grass strips down there. And so
Yeah,
I loved it.
they actually partner with JARS, I think, on that, correct? To get the mountain flying and off airport landing stuff. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because Matt has a 206 on loan from MAF, and every time they fly it down there to JARS, it always ends up with some JARS stickers somewhere on the airplane. So
Nice, nice. So let's talk about that for a minute. What kind of aircraft? I mean, has it been solely pretty much the 206, or did you get any tailwheel time, or is that not really what's used down there, or what's the necessary training? Because as you know, STOL is very popular right now. It's almost like a fad, but I don't think it's going away. I think people are just
Right.
discovering it, and it's becoming so popular. And a lot of people are doing it for fun and to be able to go land, on these different sandbars and gravel bars just for adventure. And here you are doing it for work. Now, there are people,
Yeah.
of course, in Alaska that have to have these planes to get in and out of where they live too. So it's not all play, but for you, it's definitely a job. So what's the STOL world look like for you in Africa and for a living?
Yeah, it is different. We did get our tail wheel endorsements, and actually the evaluation we do at JARS is in a Helio Courier. So
That's
basically,
awesome. That is, I
yeah,
bet that was an
basically
experience.
it was amazing. Very, very nervous. It's a crazy thing, but basically they give you the aircraft manual on like a Friday, and then you study it, and with no other input, you teach yourself how to fly it, basically. And they have an instructor that's evaluating you, but they don't give you input. So, I think SMAP totally prepared me for it. I actually loved flying the Courier. It was so much fun. And by the end, I was sad it was over, because it's just a really fun airplane to fly. But that was the last time. Yeah, that was the last time I flew a tailwheel aircraft. So, but I enjoyed it. We had a 140 at SMAT that we could fly for recreation. So I got some good fun time in that too. But we don't. Yeah, we strictly, well, we fly the 206 and the Caravan with AIM-Air. So we don't have any tailwheel aircraft with us here.
Okay. And what's well, a Caravan is self-explanatory because that's basically a bus.
Yeah.
So I assume you haul a lot of goods back and forth with that, and well, I guess and people too. If you got like a whole family that you can fit, the 7-8 passenger, right?
Actually, ours are in East Africa. There's a little bit of a difference in operation. We can put an extra row of seats in, and we can have 13 passengers in it.
What?
So yeah, it's amazing. It kind of makes it look, because normally it's 9, so normally it's 3 rows of 3 seats, and we can put the 4th row back there, and yeah, so that allows us 12 in the back, extra passenger in the front. So
Have the
we could
different
really haul.
have the different establishments looked at both the Cessna and the Kodiak is quite popular for that too, correct? Is one better
It
than the
is,
other in the field?
not to start any wars, but I think there's so many caravans in Kenya. It's the most used aircraft to get people out to safaris and out to the nature preserves and things like that. So there's tons of caravans, and so the parts are plentiful. Support for them are great. So we just stuck with it. We don't have anything. I think the Kodiak is better in a STOL world just by like 100 meters, but we don't have any airstrips that are requiring that. So
Okay.
we hear good and bad things from JARS pilots that fly them. So
Gotcha. That's interesting. Yeah, I worked on a Caravan on floats when I was younger, like 20. They're doing an avionics upgrade. I remember we worked like through the night to get it done the next day, and some of the head A&P guy, I got to go on a test flight, and I was sleeping in the truck or something, so I missed it. But
yeah.
I missed my chance to fly in a Caravan. But those are cool planes for sure.
It's a beautiful aircraft. It actually, so when you come out to Africa with AIM-Air, you do your first term or term and a half, which is 3 to 4 years in the 206, just so you can get oriented to the area and the officials and the different airports and the terrain, and then they transition you to the Caravan. But the reality is the Caravan is easier to fly than the 206. I mean, it's just smooth. The controls are beautiful. It's just a fun airplane to fly. So it's kind of like, and of course it has autopilot. So, people are like, you get up to altitude and you hit autopilot and you can do your paperwork in the airplane instead of doing it on the ground after the flight. So it shortens your paperwork time a little bit.
So that being said, from point A to point B, is it really just a no-brainer, like the terrain and all that kind of stuff, and the weather? Talk to me about that. What's the weather down there like? And when you do well, let's just start. Like, what's a typical day in the life of Pete? And, and
Sure.
what does the weather and the flight look like?
Well, the weather here, we're in the tropical zone, so where I stay right now, we're 3 degrees north of the equator. Um, so it's very much tropics. We don't have fronts, we don't deal with lows and highs and things like that. The barometric pressure does change a little bit, but not very much. So the best thing about that is, it's funny because when I landed, you start getting into the flight department and you're like, how do you guys get your weather? You're in the US and you can have weather from 100 different sources, and
You're like
everybody just kind of looks outside.
yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. That's the move. So you just look outside and you're like, well, I can get out. I can see that mountain over there, so I know the ceiling's high enough, and
Well,
those are
let
the
me ask you,
indicators. Is
being this is in the bush type stuff like that, do you only fly VFR? Is that kind of like a strict rule, or do you file IFR plans to go to certain areas, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so the 206, we both Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan all go by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation rules, and they don't allow single and VFR. Our caravans can fly IFR, and we do if we're flying, especially if, like, to get back into, for example, Nairobi, which has a lot of weather. It's up at 5,600 feet elevation. It's kind of on a plateau, and so weather just comes up, and a lot of times it's socked in by clouds, for sure in the mornings. So you file IFR to get out in the mornings, and once you're above the cloud layer, you just cancel and go VFR. That's kind of how we do it, especially in and out of Nairobi.
Okay, so
But
the
yeah,
nature of the work essentially is you have to be a VFR to be able to land in some of these off airport places. So you are mostly VFR unless you're going to town.
Yep, nowhere exactly. Nowhere I fly, even the airport that I fly out of up here in northern Uganda, we don't have an instrument approach. There's no tower. It's just VFR up here. So it's good, the thing without radar, or because the cells can hide in just overcast. So here, like I was saying, the weather doesn't move. The good thing is if there's a buildup over there, you just go around it, and it's not going to come and it's not going to move and take you out at any chance. You just go around things. So as long as you can get under them, it's easy to go around.
Yeah, what's the terrain like there? Is it fairly flat, or is there some mountains, or kind of like comparative to maybe the Tennessee or North Carolina? Some people call those hills, not mountains. So
yeah, we have yes, Uganda is like a big plateau at 4,000 feet. So most of Uganda is pretty flat. There are some hills, some terrain like that go up 1,000 feet. That if the weather's bad, you have to know where they are and be aware. But once you get up into South Sudan, where we fly the most, there's mountains that are 2,500 feet, 3,000 feet. Then you go up a little farther this way, and there's 4,000 to 5,000 foot peaks. So it's around, but the farther north you go, the flatter it gets. If I fly about an hour north, it's just flat. It's swamp all the way north, pretty much to the Mediterranean Sea if you went that far. But
gotcha.
yeah, it goes. The Nile River's there, so the Nile flattens out, and there's swampland that surrounds it.
So for the most part, do you pretty much fly the same path to your different stops, or do you?
Yeah, I know the routes. I know the area very well,
Okay.
just because I've flown it enough. So yeah, it's good to have familiarity with that kind of terrain.
And what is your furthest, like when you go out for the morning or for the day, what is your typical furthest flight before you turn around and come back home? And what happens if weather pops up? Do you have a tent and an overnight bag always, I assume?
We we don't always have overnight supplies, but because like during rainy season, I've only been delayed because of weather overnight one time, and we always have alternates, and it's usually not like in the U.S. You can have the whole eastern seaboard is socked in, but here it's pretty localized. The rain that's heavy, usually if it's more than 20 miles in diameter, that's really strange. So um, if you can get around it to a different landing spot, you're probably safe. So
Gotcha. Now,
yeah,
being
but I
that,
mean,
go
as
ahead.
far as distance or time, the farthest we go is up into the northern part of South Sudan, and that is it's about a 3.5 hour flight direct from where we are here. So it's quite a ways.
Yeah, bring your little John with you sometimes, huh?
Yeah, yeah. We always manage. We're always right on the edge of being dehydrated. You don't want to drink too much, but just enough.
Well, lucky you're in a fairly humid environment, I guess, so you don't dry out too much. But yeah, you don't want to go chug a gallon of anything before you go flying that day, huh?
No, no. I stay away from the coffee on the morning.
Gotcha. Well, I feel like I have to ask. I'm going back to like airplane construction for a minute. Well,
Yeah.
before I get there, being that you are an A&P and pilot, so do you do all of your own maintenance, or do you have a maintenance department or maintenance facility or whatnot there? How does that work?
Yeah, we have dedicated maintenance specialists who are here just like I am. And
Okay,
so they do all the heavy lifting. They all have IAs. I think they all do, if not a majority of them do. So they do the inspecting and we do like 50-hour inspections on the 206, which is basically an oil change with a really good once over of everything. And a lot of times when we take an airplane down to Nairobi for maintenance for a 100-hour inspection, we'll help out. So, we'll sit in the hangar with them and do any work, and I love it. I love the maintenance part of it anyway. So the more I can get a wrench in my hand, the happier I am usually. So we'd love a hangar up here. I think the biggest problem is we don't have a hangar in Arua, Uganda. So we're not going to take an airplane apart for several days out on a ramp with, a gravel
sure.
and no protection.
Sure. Well, the other question I was going to ask you, I've seen, and I'm sure you have, at least over the years, um, these videos that come out of Africa with these guys that are trying to build an airplane, and just how interesting. Have you ever come across that in any of the villages or any of the cities that people are trying to build some type of contraption to go flying?
No, I've
Uh,
never seen that. I have watched some YouTube videos and I'm like, somebody's going to kill themselves,
Right, right. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and it's like first I was like, it'd be really cool, especially in the experimental world, right? Is to ship a kit down there and actually like, all right, you've done a great job of attempting to do this. Let's actually build one together, and then
Yeah.
but that's
Yep.
like, what he's going to do with it then. But the other thought is, and all right, instead of that, which would be a logistic nightmare probably, maybe bring that guy or a couple of those guys over here to do a build. I think that would be a lot
Yep.
of fun,
Oh yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't know, there's probably a dozen or two videos out there, these guys trying to build an airplane just because they have a sheer passion for it, right?
Yeah.
And they're just
Yep.
pulling what they have from their neighborhood to try to build stuff.
Yeah. There's a very, I'd call it a healthy experimental community in just south of Nairobi. There's a fun little airport. The runway is pavers, like landscape pavers. It's beautiful runway. And we were down there doing some training, and I found a Bearhawk, and I think there's a
Really?
sea camp down
How about
there,
that?
a couple of kit foxes. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. So
Very cool. I talked to some people recently in the STOL world, and I started thinking about missionaries, like understanding where you're at, and for the most part, you've got, for a lack of a better description, true airports almost. They're just, gravel or some dirt roads, but you've got some length. Like, what's your shortest runway that you have to land on, whether it be a 206 or the Caravan?
Yeah, actually, they're both the same.
Okay.
Our operating procedure says the minimum is 550 meters, which is what 1,700 feet,
Okay.
and that's our gross operating weight into and out of those airstrips. So, they're not like, it's not a gravel bar, but also we're flying a 206, and
You're heavy. You're
yeah,
heavy.
we do it just so we can fly in and out of there gross, because most of those airstrips are in places where we need to. And if we didn't fly in and out of there gross, it'd be a wasted trip. Nobody would pay that kind of money to get a half loaded airplane in and out of places.
So in reality, though, let's say, and this is really where this comes as a need. You're flying from point A to point B, and there's no runways in between these spots, right? So if something happened mechanically and you had to put down, what is like the shortest in either the 206 or the Caravan, or are they about the same? They're just one's heavier than the other. What is the shortest distance you could put it down in, you think?
That's a great question. I'd probably say, if I'm light, I can probably stop in. Don't quote me on this. I don't know. That's a great question. I'd have to run some numbers really, but I think probably 150 meters. So what is that? 450 feet,
Okay.
400 feet. A lot of times I'm not even on the brakes.
Yeah.
You land, you hit your spot, and you're slow enough. You don't have to brake too hard before the end of the strip, and then you on the brakes. And really, well, let me think. In our training, the shortest runway I did was 900 feet
Okay.
in at JARS. So, that's pretty tight. But if you're on airspeed and you hit your spot, it's not, none of us are cowboys. We're not just trying to, bust the envelope wide open or anything. We follow procedures, but in all that planning, if you can hit your numbers and you hit your landing spot every time, there's no, it's not even close. So
Yeah.
we have lots of margin.
Well, how often do you go back and forth to the States to visit family? And so it's like a yearly thing, or every other year, or how does that work for you guys?
Well, for everybody's different. With AIM, they give a lot of freedom to the missionaries. So our first term was 2.5 years. We were here, and then we came back for about 5 months, 4.5 months to the U.S. And then we came back here. And last year we did come back because my son graduated, and so we went back to the U.S. and got him we were there for about 5 weeks, and just kind of got him oriented in college and things like that, and then came back over here. So we are planning to be here another 2 years. Next July. Yeah, July 2021 is when we plan to be back in the U.S. again.
Okay, so you won't come over for even a couple of weeks. You'll be there for another year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, and talking to some different people, how cool it would be to add to the mix some of these STOL competitions is bring in some missionaries over that fly in the bush all the time. And okay, maybe you don't fly, you don't land in like 150 feet, but you could, do this and hone your skills for that kind of stuff. Right. Or
yeah, it's all the same principles. It's these guys that are doing that, they're on their airspeed, they hit their spot, and you stop. And it's just, instead of coming in at 60 knots, they're coming in at 35 or something,
Yeah. I mean, even like you see in NASCAR, the Army has their own NASCAR team, right? So why couldn't there be a missionary team for STOL competitions? And I mean, you're seeing this stuff that Reno now has added. Kevin Quinn created the STOL drags, right? So that's now there. And then High Sierra, they do the STOL drags there, that kind of stuff. Or here's another thought: if you can't come over here that often, but once a year, a couple of years, what if we were to put together something over in Africa And let's not call it a competition, because everybody involved might be like, well, that's, but a demonstration that will
Yeah.
hone the skills of other missionary pilots. And that'd be a lot of fun, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
A class for the 206 or whatever other common aircraft, a class for the Caravan. I bet people over here would love to see some competition of Caravans landing STOL and taking
Yeah.
off.
We do. Actually, we haven't done one in about 3 years, but AMAIR, we used to do, a, they called it Orly Day. That's the runway we land at. And we do spot landing competitions just among ourselves. And we did a flower bomb drop, things like that. So but it just hones your skills, and it makes, I'm always trying to hit my spot every time on a landing. But when you're comparing yourself to your fellow missionary pilot, it ups the stakes a little bit.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
we actually work really closely with MAF, both in, Uganda, South Sudan, and Kenya. So it'd be kind of funny to get some of those guys involved. They're great pilots too. And we
So,
work
so is
well.
that just to make? I'm taking notes here. So just to make a list of the organizations that are down there and near you in your area. So it's AIM and MAF. Is there anybody else that operates there?
Yeah, Samaritan's Purse operates, their main base is in Kenya, but they're mostly flying out of Uganda right now. So,
Okay.
yeah, they could do the STOL landing in a DC-3. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Haven't they converted most of those to turboprops now? Or are they still radial? Oh, they've been converted.
Yeah, they're all turbo. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be pretty impressive too, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna put some more thought into that, because I think I want to make that happen. I'll reach out to these organizations and say, hey, you know what? Be very inspiring to not only the
Yeah.
pilots that are working doing this and to keep them safer, but it'll be inspiring to the locals down there too.
Yeah, there's actually there's a guy who is with JARS, lives in Waxhaw, North Carolina, and he does demonstrations at air shows. So with the Helio,
Okay.
his name is Mike Mowers, and he flies. He actually, I think he has somebody's private Helio that he gets to fly around. Not a jar airplanes. So he might be a good contact if you want competition. He would probably come and make it look really good.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, especially the Helio came as two options. It was a piston, and then also later a turbine, correct? Or there was always
Yeah,
two options?
I've never seen the turboprop model, but yeah, they have the ground power unit, the Geo 480s with the gearbox on the front.
Or was that only in the Air America movie from years and years ago, before
Yeah,
Iron Man was Iron Man?
that's right. Yep.
Crazy movie. Okay. Well, I'm sure you are coming to me probably via satellite or something here, so I'll make this somewhat short, although we've gone about, I don't know, 40, 50 minutes, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I want to say, well, first, if somebody wanted to follow you and your family and your adventures and being a missionary down in Africa, where can they find you on social media, a webpage, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so Instagram is kind of where I've been posting most of my stuff. So I'm Missionary Pilot Pete is my name there. Also on Facebook, it's just Pete Young. There's probably about 1,000 of us, but look for the guy with a headset on, I guess. But I have a website. It's called flyingforchrist.com. I actually, it hasn't been updated in a while. I've had some connection issues with the server lately, but I try to put up our newsletters and any new information, especially when we're back in the US. I usually put speaking calendar up there. So if you want to hear us and we're in the area, you're certainly welcome to come and we'll chat.
Awesome. Well, again, appreciate carving out some time today, and I'll check in with you from time to time. As you know, I see your posts all the time from Instagram and sometimes on Facebook. So it's good to keep a connection there. I like what you do. Keep on doing it and stay safe there.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right,
Yep.
everybody. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode and future episodes. I'm trying to do these about once a week. It's a new platform for me to do, but I know a lot of people are driving to work sometimes or working in their shop and want to have something to listen to instead of watch. So hoping to give the option of both, watching this on YouTube or listening to on either Podbean, which is the host of this. And then there's iTunes and Google Play. And I guess I'll try to get on Spotify next or something like that. So we'll catch you next time. Thank you for tuning in and watching and listening today. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next interview.